Well, good morning. Let's see if we can do this morning without technical difficulties. It's always greatly appreciated. Well, sir, all the way from London, England. How are you doing this beautiful day? Ah, Debbie, good morning from Seligman. How are things in Seligman? Did you have a good Route 66 fun run type weekend? No problem, Mr. Andy. It was sure good talking to you.
Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Sandra, good morning. How are you and Clemens doing? How are things in the Netherlands? Miss Connie, well, good morning, all the way from Tucumcari. Well, we've got a great audience this morning. Angela, it is wonderful to hear what's happening in Amarillo, and God bless. Angela is the proprietor of the one and only Cactus Motor Inn in McLean, Texas. Well, good morning, mi amigos. How are we doing this beautiful, beautiful day? Here in my neighborhood, we are flirting with summer. The temperatures have been pushing the 90-degree mark. That means my morning walkabouts start a bit earlier. And as the temperatures are cool and pleasant, they are even more enjoyable. This morning, the road trip inspiration is of the urban kind. As most of you might know, I am a fellow that just likes towns that are so small, First Street is the edge of town. I like a place where everyone is a neighbor. A place that's so small they don't have a town drunk, they have to take turns. So no one was more surprised than me to discover that the very heart of Los Angeles was a place to be highly recommended. The original western terminus of Route 66 is at 7th and Broadway in the heart of the historic Los Angeles Theater District. The blocks around that intersection are a swirl of diverse and fascinating attractions. As a lot of my adventures center on food, I'd like to share with you as a teaser for this morning's program the Grand Central Market. This epic food court opened in 1917 and except for 2020 has never closed. It's an open-air market with entrances on Hill Street and South Broadway. It is a produce market, a seafood market, and an absolute sea of sandwich, coffee, chocolate, and ethnic food vendors. It is florist and pizza shops, taco stands, and a neon sign museum spanning 100 years. It is sensory overload of epic proportions. And believe it or not, you can get to the Grand Central Market, to the historic theater district, and you can do it on nearly empty streets. And you can also find empty parking lots within a few blocks. Curious? Well, stay tuned. Before sharing a few of my secrets, that aren't really so secret. I want to give a shout out to David Brenner of the Roadrunner Lodge in Tucumcari, New Mexico. He has transformed a derelict motel, a blight on the city, into a magical place where the past and present blend seamlessly. The motel is promoted as 1964 swank, but it's much, much more than that. It's a delightful opportunity for a bit of time travel at the end of a day spent exploring Route 66. As with most cities along the Route 66 corridor, US 66 followed an array of different alignments during its evolution as the Los Angeles metropolitan area grew. Each is peppered with an overwhelming array of historic sites, architectural gems, an intriguing array of restaurants, and colorful neighborhoods. As with any city, know before you go. It's just a good rule of thumb. Be aware of your surroundings. It's obvious when you drive through that some neighborhoods are just simply best visited during the day. Still, I've driven every block of Route 66, all the different alignments, from San Bernardino to Santa Monica, and I've never felt threatened, worried, or intimidated. I have, however, been frustrated, and I've had ample opportunity to dust off my collection of four-letter words during the drive. My base camp when exploring Los Angeles metro area is the Saga Motor capsule. And not surprisingly, it is often used as a set for movies about California in the 1950s. Towering palm trees around the swimming pool, the pink stucco, everything about this place gives the illusion that time ended in 1958. I got to tell you though, it is not the Hilton. It's not a five-star property. It is, however, clean, well maintained, and ideally located, and the rates are very reasonable, especially for the Los Angeles area. My last visit back in November 2019, a large double bed poolside room set me back $129 for the night. Seems like a lot of money to me for a place to sleep and shower, but like I say, in the LA area, oh boy. Another bonus with a Saga is there are a lot of restaurants and small groceries all along Colorado Boulevard. Most are within walking distance of the Saga. I do hope that they've survived COVID, but there are two hot restaurants that I highly recommend. One is Cameron's Seafood with its wonderful neon sign and delicious food. But one of my hands down favorite is Hyder Baba at 1511 East Colorado Boulevard. This is in a fascinating, authentic Persian cafe. Now, I was unable to pronounce half of the menu offerings, but I did entertain the waitress by trying. The food is superb. I highly recommend the kebab plate. Now, if you do go and you find something better, please, please, please let me know. It is possible to drive in the LA metro area and survive. The key is timing. And again, a little planning. Know before you go. Within walking distance of the Saga is a light rail station. You know, this is overlooked a lot, but the light rail system in LA is an excellent option for exploring the city. And the line follows most of the Route 66 corridor. Driving from San Bernardino to Santa Monica, the Route 66 corridor is a near endless string of stoplights. And there's traffic any time of the day or night. But driving from San Bernardino to Pasadena on a Saturday morning or afternoon, the traffic is light to moderate. A is an example. An early Sunday morning is even better. On the drive from Pasadena into the historic theater district of Los Angeles, the streets are nearly empty at 7 o'clock in the morning. As an example, consider picture B. And the Arroyo Seco Parkway, even on Sunday morning, has traffic, but it is light. Hey, now going back to what I usually do, better to fill the head with useless knowledge than no knowledge at all. The Arroyo Seco, it was the first limited access freeway built west of the Mississippi River. It carried Route 66 traffic after 1940. And get this, it's the only scenic byway in a major metropolitan area. But any of the old alignments work early on Sunday morning. And if you get down to the Grand Central Market around 8 o'clock when they open, most of the parking lots in the neighborhoods are empty. I've never had a problem. Just easy peasy. And like I say, this is coming from a fellow who just gets nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs in a town with more than 3 stoplights. The Broadway Corridor is in the midst of gentrification. So you've got homeless people, you got panhandlers. It's the heart of a big city. Just pay attention, be aware of your surroundings, explore, and enjoy. Hey, if you're a sign geek, I highly recommend having a designated driver. From San Bernardino all the way to Santa Monica, mixed among the seemingly endless string of strip malls and generic fast food restaurants, are countless old motels, restaurants, and shops, and many of them have fascinating signage. This one, Ned's Oil and Stuff, definitely one of my favorites. I do not know the history behind this sign, but I love it. Between traffic lights, traffic, and taking pictures of signs and trying out a few of the restaurants or making snack stops, I guarantee you can easily consume a day driving from San Bernardino to Pasadena. And if you add in a few museums like the Railroad Museum in San Bernardino and the old train depot, you can easily lose a day. It's only about 55 miles. And then you can add another day for the drive to Santa Monica through Hollywood and the Beverly Hills. As you should expect to find in any metro area, there are a multitude of fascinating attractions. Unfortunately, it was not possible to save the garage. But the renovated Cucamonga service station in Rancho Cucamonga, it is a treasure. It's mostly a museum at this point. It really stands out in a swirl of generic architecture like McDonald's and strip malls. When it was built, of course, this was a rural farming area. And there's even vestiges of that if you get to looking as you get closer out into San Bernardino. The station and the garage were built along the National Old Trails Road in 1915 by Henry Klusman. Amazingly, the station remained operational until 1971. After that, in between periods of abandonment, it housed an array of different businesses before it was restored by the Inland Empire Route 66 Association. There's even an older gym along Route 66 in Rancho Cucamonga. The early history of the Sycamore Inn and the site is a tad bit sketchy. Purportedly, Captain Juan Bautista de Anza camped near this site while following a Native American trade route in March of 1774. At that time, it was an oasis of sycamore trees situated next to a stream. The Spaniards called it Aurora Los Osos, translated to Bear Gulch. In March 1839, the Spanish governor of California, Juan Alvarado, he granted Tiburcio Tapia a land grant of 13,000 acres named Rancho Cucamonga. He built an adobe ranch house on the crest of Red Hill overlooking the oasis of Aurora de los Osos. In 1858, the land passed to an American, John Raines, and he built a fire brick home and planted 125,000 vines for the production of wine. By this time, the old trail out front had become a thoroughfare connecting San Bernardino to Los Angeles. So an inn and tavern were built. And over the years, the inn suffered fire, flood, rebuilding, and fire. And then in 1920, local citrus rancher John Klusman incorporated the old building into the current one. The last modifications were made in 1939. The parking lot of the Sycamore Inn is ideally suited for a stop and neighborhood walkabout. This overpass is immediately to the east of the old inn. And if you do stop for photos, pay attention. See if you can find the bridge and culvert dated 1939. Across the street is the amazing Magic Lamp Inn that opened in 1955. The restaurant looks to be lifted from the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, the Arabian Nights. It's really kind of a quirky but a fun way, the interior decoration. And the restaurant, is a bit of trivia, originally opened in 1940 as John and Lucy's Cafe. I have to point out something in this picture. This is Foothill Boulevard. This is Route 66. Do you notice the traffic? See, I have evidence. This was taken on a Saturday afternoon. It is possible to drive Route 66 with minimal traffic aggravation, at least into from San Bernardino to Pasadena. We'll talk more about it, but the stretch from downtown LA to Santa Monica, I've never found a way to beat the traffic yet. Roadside Oddities. They're a big part of the Route 66 adventure in the LA area. Consider Chicken Boy in Highland Park along an early alignment of that highway. It's another creation from International Fiberglass, the company behind the iconic Muffler Men statues. It dates to the 1960s when it was manufactured as the advertisement for the Chicken Boy, a local fried chicken restaurant downtown near Broadway. The statue stood at its original location until 1984 when the restaurant owner died. It was then placed in storage, and in 2007 it was unveiled at its current location in Highland Park along Route 66. Since then, it has become quite a celebrity among Route 66 enthusiasts, and it is one of several now famous photo ops along Route 66 in that area. Going back to Broadway, downtown, the original western terminus of Route 66, the historic theater district is in a state of flux. And of course, COVID-19 induced shutdowns delayed or even crippled some projects. If you are a fan of classic architecture, classic theaters, you need to walk this district slowly. And if you time it right, there might be an opportunity to take a peek inside some of the old theaters. These are truly movie palaces. And of course, starting probably in the late 70s through the 80s into the 90s, the area really went on a steep decline, and these old theaters became skid row churches, porno palaces, all kinds of things. But now they're starting to be renovated. This is the largest theater district listed on the National Register of Historic Places. At its peak in the 1930s, there were more theaters located along this corridor than in Times Square. Nearby is the Merced Theater at 420 North Main Street. It opened January 30th, 1871. It's the oldest surviving theater building in Los Angeles. On Broadway, you have the Arcade that opened September 26, 1910, the Cameo Theater that also opened in 1910, the Globe Theater that opened in 1913, the facade and marquee of the Los Angeles Theater that opened in 1931 is absolutely overwhelming in size, scope, and architectural style. The real gem is the theater that opened February 1st, 1918, as Grauman's $1 Million Theater. The name was derived from the cost of construction. In every sense of the word, this is a movie palace. And the name might sound familiar because the fella behind Grauman, this is also the fella who built Grauman's Chinese Theater. Almost directly across the street from the Grand Central Market on Broadway is the Bradbury Building. Dating to 1893, this architectural time capsule is the oldest commercial building remaining in the central city. Behind its modest exterior lies a jaw-dropping Victorian atrium that rises almost 50 feet with open cage elevators, marble stairs, ornate iron railings. Access is restricted, but it's well worth the effort to try to get inside. This building alone, as they say, is worth the price of admission, or shall I say, it's worth the aggravation of LA traffic and congestion. Contrary to popular belief, Route 66 does not end at Santa Monica Pier. The actual terminus is at the intersection of Lincoln and Olympic, a few blocks from the pier. This is the location for Mel's Drive-In, a roadside classic chain that opened in 1947. But honestly, who's going to drive all the way from Chicago along Route 66 and through LA and just stop? Who's not going to go the last few blocks to the pier? At this juncture, as I said, I have to tell you, I have yet to find a time to drive from downtown LA to the pier and avoid traffic. All I can tell you, enjoy the ride, crawl through the traffic of Hollywood and Beverly Hills, find parking where you can, and walk. Check out places like the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, Barney's Beanery, the Formosa Cafe. It's the only way, it's the best way to get the most from your trip through the LA metro area. Here's another surprise from the pier. Dan Rice's 66 to Cali and the now world-famous Into the Trail sign that is a very popular photo op is not quite the end of the journey. That is out at the end of the pier at Manny Mendelssohn's Last Stop Shop. Manny began peddling Route 66 merchandise back in the early 1990s. He was a good friend of Route 66 icon Bob Waldmeyer, and hence the memorial at his shop at the end of the pier. Ooh, well, that was quick. I had best get to wrapping this up, I suppose. Hope I've inspired a road trip or two. Have I encouraged you to take a deep breath and to boldly set out on a voyage of discovery along Route 66 in the LA metro area? And one more little tip for you. Scott Piotrowski. Scott is an amigo of mine, and he's also the president of the California Historic Route 66 Association. He is the hands-down guru when it comes to Route 66 west of San Bernardino. He's the fellow that Jerry McClanahan turned to when composing the Easy 66 Guide for Travelers, as he tried to decipher Los Angeles. After giving up gear jamming, I vowed that I would never again cross over the Cajon Pass. I drew the line at Hysteria, better known as Hesperia, and Victimville, better known as Victorville. Well, it's a long story, short version. I had an invitation to do a book signing at a bookstore in Burbank, ended up with an interview with Jay Leno. So over the Cajon Pass I went. But it was Scott. Scott Piotrowski met me there and kept encouraging me to come explore Route 66 in the big city. He shared tips, highlights, and a few special places. At this point, I need to mention, Scott has a little side business. He offers really fascinating guided tours along Route 66 in the LA area. If that's of interest, drop me a note, and I will gladly provide his contact information and facilitate introductions for you. How's that for a deal? Well, let me give a shout out to a few of the people who make this program sponsor, make this program possible. Of course, supporters of our crowdfunding initiative. They are just crucial to so much of what we do, like recent presentation for the Rotary Club in El Paso, Texas. Then we have Road Trip USA. These folks are in the road trip business. They are in the business of transforming dreams into memorable adventures and of helping you cross items off that bucket list. As a bonus, you can enhance a visit to the Great Southwest or a trip along Route 66 by adding a tour of Kingman, Arizona with me as your guide. And what can I say about the Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri? I could tell you that it's the oldest continuously operated motel on Route 66. I could tell you that Connie Eccles has managed to seamlessly blend the past with the present and capture the very essence of the Route 66 experience. I could tell you that Cuba deserves more than a cursory visit, and that the Wagon Wheel Motel is where the adventure in this charming village begins. But words just won't work here. They just won't do justice. You have to experience the magic for yourself. Last but not least this morning, I need to give a shout out to the Mayor Louis Keene of Uranus Fudge Company and General Store. Here again, mere words cannot explain this roadside attraction of truly epic proportions. Quirky, interesting, fun, fascinating, entertaining, even educational. Odd. That's the best I can come up with. Stop by, taste the fudge and other goodies, check out the world's only circus sideshow museum and the other attractions. Stop for an hour. Watch. You're going to lose track of time and you'll end up spending an afternoon and won't regret it. If you need a bang for your promotional dollar or really want to put your community on the map, give me a holler. Jim Hinckley's America is a network of partners telling people where to go in a manner that makes them look forward to the trip. And I'd sure love to have you guys have you as a sponsor. Just give me a holler and we'll talk details. Next week on Coffee with Jim, I'm going to be talking museums and attractions along Route 66. Now, I know I did some of this previously, but this time we're going to places overlooked, places that might require a little bit of a walkabout, and places that a lot of people somehow miss. As an example, we'll be visiting Mulvey State Park near Winslow, where more than 300 ancestral Puebloan archaeological sites are preserved. Another example of our destinations next week will be the intriguing Millburn Price Culture Museum in Vega, Texas. Now, how many people even knew that Vega, Texas had a museum? Most Route 66 folks zip through, they check out the Magnolia Station, and they miss one of the city's great attractions. And we're going to have a few short detours as well to share. I think you're going to find it pretty interesting. More road trip inspiration. And as always, I sure hope that you can join us for the adventure. I always promise a road trip or two will be inspired. Well, my friends, let's see what we got here from when we'll answer some questions this morning. We have Stephen from Road Trip USA, all the way from London, England, and Debbie up at the Roadkill Cafe in Seligman, Arizona, one of our coffee cup sponsors. And I'm glad to hear it's sunny in England. See, it doesn't rain all the time, contrary to popular belief. Well, Andy, Mother's Day, yes. We have Sandra and Clemens with us. Clemens is trying to multitask there. Connie is doing a wonderful job. I don't know if anybody, if you're not familiar with Connie Loveland, she is with Main Street over in Tucumcari. and they are doing some fascinating and amazing things over that way. And I mentioned Angela this morning over at the Cactus Motel Inn over in McLean, Texas. She's bringing that 1950s time capsule back to life. And I'm eager to get on the road and see what she's done. Well, Andy, these things turn up in unexpected places. We just got to keep, just when we get a chance. Miss Maggie May from Lansing, Michigan, 46 wonderful degrees. Debbie, I'm really glad to hear that. Rainy day in Chicago. I do not know how you can package that, but we sure need some rain out this direction. Good morning, Bill. Yeah, Roadrunner Lodge. Just a real delight. Tara with us this morning. She's with the California Historic Route 66 Association. If you get a chance, check out their website or Facebook page. They're doing some great programs on Zoom on a regular basis. Debbie, if I can help plan that trip to Chicago, you give me a holler, and I sure enjoy telling people where to go. Bernard, my dear friend from Germany, is with us this morning. Nolan, some of the signs are lit. A lot of the downtown theater district, they're bringing it back to life. A lot of the marquees are lit. A lot of the signs are lit. Yeah, it's pretty neat. A word of note, though, some of the districts, like in Highland Park, no fear, no worries, but just be careful at night. There's a couple sketchy neighborhoods. Not bad, just a little sketchy. Tara, thank you. Yeah, you're exactly right, Tara. Traffic is simply part of the big city. It's that simple. And I agree with you. Yeah, travelers need to simply take a breath and go with the flow. Well, Tara, what I was trying to show this morning, and maybe I overstated this or overdid this, but I was trying to show that the traffic is manageable. A little bit of timing. I get extremely frustrated with traffic right here where I live in Kingman, and I was very surprised. A lot of my trips, thanks to Scott Piotrowski, a little exploration, doing a little bit of homework, I was able to enjoy Foothill Boulevard, and traffic was better than it is here where I live. Yep, next week we'll have some more fun. Connie, you're quite welcome. Yeah, Mike May is, he's the go-to fella for when it comes to EV cars and Route 66 for sure. Oh, I'm sorry you had severe weather last night in Kansas. I hope everyone's well and no real property damage. And Keith, good morning. Hey, Tara, one more point. Now, the reason I keep bringing up traffic, it's almost a phobia with people. They know that there's traffic in every big city, but somehow traffic has become the boogeyman in LA. And to a degree, I understand that. But what I was trying to get across was that you can work around that in most instances. My friends, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Are there any questions I can answer for you? Any thoughts, ideas? If you have ideas on programs that you'd like to see, drop me a note and I'll see if we can put it together. I mentioned our crowdfunding on Patreon platform. As my way of saying thank you to supporters, I provide a lot of exclusive content, stories, things of that nature, updates on projects. And the crowdfunding funds, well, it makes it feasible for a lot of projects. Like recently, like the recent presentation for the Rotary Club of El Paso. Tara, I agree. I guess I'm not explaining myself well. I want people to know that just pay attention. Highland Park is going through gentrification as well, yes. But there's just people, especially from small towns, people from overseas, they get nervous. And what I want to do is make it clear that simply pay attention, just like you would anywhere else. It's not my intention to scare people. It's just the opposite. Just be careful. There's areas where it's obvious that walking by yourself at night is just not a good idea. But what big city doesn't have those problems? And there again, it's common sense. Uh, I haven't had any problems in the Los Angeles area at all, and I'm quite comfortable. And I want to encourage people to do a bit of exploring. But just like with any big city, I want to say, just be careful, pay attention. Mike, I am glad to hear that. Amboy to Newberry Springs, quick day trip. How are things out that way? Yeah, Tara, I'm not sure I'm glad you brought that up because I don't, COVID protocols, as we all know, that has been a problem all along the Route 66 corridor. It seems like the rulings change at a moment's notice, and the way the whole thing has been handled from state, federal, local, it's almost like watching a one-eyed blind man play darts. It's just been nothing short of amazing. Uh, Tara, I hope I didn't cause you any problems, but like I say, what I wanted to do today was encourage people not to be intimidated. A lot of Route 66 groups, I'm surprised by this, and I understand it, especially if you've got a big group and you're traveling in convoy and whatnot. But I really want to encourage people. A lot of times they'll go to, if they're traveling east to west, they go to Barstow and then they'll whip back up to Las Vegas. They skip the whole LA metro area. And if at all possible, don't do that. You will regret it. My friends, thank you for joining me this morning. I enjoy our visits. I'm really surprised how quick time passes and goes. Um, we'll do this again next week. We're gonna have some fun. I talked a while back about museums like the J.M. Davis Museum and things of that nature, but we're going to talk about some different places. And you're right, Tara. Yes, local tourism, like I say, there again, know before you go. A little bit of planning. That's the key. Next week, I mentioned the museum in Vega. I've got some hiking trails to share for you. I've got some kind of out of the way places and some chances for opportunities. For example, I'll give you one more teaser from next week. Did you know that the only road where you can drive to the bottom of the Grand Canyon is accessed via Route 66? How's that for a teaser? Well, my friends, I got to button this up. Got to get to work, and want to sure thank everyone for joining us today. My friends, take care, and until we meet again, vaya con Dios. Adios.